All right. First and foremost, I want to talk about purpose. One of the main reasons, or one of the determining factors for getting this particular machine, was the fact that not only was it a belt squat machine, it was more or less the versatility that it actually has. I'm a IPF world champion, world record holder, but I train at home and I train by myself. So my home gym is very important, whereas most guys in my position typically train at a large facility, have a large group of people around. I don't really have that. So I have to make sure that any piece of equipment that comes into my garage gym has to be efficient and it has to be versatile. And once I saw that I had a need or a want for a belt squat machine, I was looking at more of the footprint. What machine or device was going to give me the most bang for my buck in terms of fitting into my my gym. And this one in particular fit the bill due to the fact that it's basically 61 by 54, and it would fit directly next to my competition rack by Noble Vice Performance. So that was one of the main decisions or reasons why I went with this one in particular. One of the other belt squats that was originally on my radar was the Titan version, the Titan Fitness belt squat. I watched garage gym reviews, saw that it was okay. It was more or less a $500 piece of equipment, which was $1,500 less than what I paid for or what this cost. But the difference in quality and what you're getting wasn't greater than the price difference. So although it was cheaper, but I was going to be missing out on more details and features that was just worth the difference. If it's about price, I would 100% or 1,000% recommend just saving your money up until you have enough to actually purchase this machine or the Pit Shark or whatever the case may be. There's a reason why those other squat machines or safety belt squat machines cost more or are just more expensive. But like I said, this section is I'm calling it purpose. If you follow me, which you probably do, I'm a 760, 780 pound squatter. I'm top 3 in the world on bench press. I held the all-time biggest bench press in IPF history at one point, as well as I'm a decent deadlifter. You know, I'm 750 to 800 pound deadlifter. So basically, my only weak lift is my squat. You know, so I was looking for something that would give me a bump in my squat that I so need, right? Excuse me. This past year, my squat jumped 60 pounds. So I went from a 700 pound competition squat all the way up to a 750 pound competition squat and a 760 pound training squat. So I was just trying to find something that would get me to the next level. I'm an older lifter. I'm 41 years old. I come from a background of being a dunker. So my knees are shot. I can't put in the volume and the amount of weight that's needed to create the kind of stimulus I need to see my strength and my stamina grow like it should. And also I have pinched nerves and I get this overuse of my lat syndrome, and it gets to the point where I go dead on. I can't feel my my bicep. I can't unload the weight. I needed to figure out something to take pressure off of my back, my spine, and those nerves. And that's what the purpose of this was. The other thing was that I saw a lot of the details, like some of the small details that you really don't pay attention to, but the trolley weight or the weight that's on it with no weight on it is 27 pounds. And I'll tell you that they say it's a 1-to-1 ratio, and I believe it. You know, what actually had me doubting that was watching a lot of the people who use the Pit Shark. You know, they're loading 800 pounds, they're loading 7-something, even 900 pounds on there. And then I look at their competition squats and they're not even 700 pound squatters. So I'm like, well, if that's the case, will this machine be able to hold enough weight for me to get a stimulus. And let's just say that I got up to 710 pounds and it absolutely destroyed me. So it felt like I actually had 710 pounds on my back. So, or I was squatting 710 pounds. So I believe that that is going to be an advantage versus using the pitch shark, where you're getting the overload of doing the exercises, but how much of that is actually you. It's almost like a leg press or something like that. This is like you're doing a squat. And the other thing is that your positioning. Positioning is very key with this, is because I'm a tall power lifter. Former basketball player, was considered short, but in powerlifting I'm tall, 6'1". I have extremely long femurs, and in order for me to hit depth, I have to bend over a lot more than shorter lifters. So that's something that, kind of plagues me in competition. Just like, I went for the Masters national record at Raw Nationals this year, and I had tackled so much that I failed my lift at the very, very top of the lift due to positioning. So I thought getting this machine or a machine like it, I could start working on maybe staying more upright and things of that nature. But to say that it doesn't pull you in any direction, you have control of where the pull is coming from. I will say that the system does very well, in the sense that you don't have to hold on to the handles to actually perform the exercise. You can actually use no hands and actually work on positioning. But if you use the handles, it can actually help you with guiding or whatever. That's something that I'm still struggling with through the training, learning where my feet should be. Should I be up? Should I be back? Should I push back more? Should I stay more upright? These are all things that I'm working through now. I've only had the machine for 10 days, but this is something that I'm really working on. Like, as you can see, I have kilo plates, and right now, that's almost that's a little bit over 800 pounds on there now. And as you see, it can go out even further. So I could have one of my good friends like Ray Williams or Dennis Cornelius come over to the crib if they're ever in Houston, and they can get a workout on this thing, and I'm more than sure that it can handle whatever their needs are. So if you're worried about capacity or how much could it hold, don't worry about it. You will not be able to max this thing out unless you use bumper plates or something of that nature, or extra wide plates. Then you may have to worry about that. But then it also has pegs in the back to where you can hook bands up to it as well. So when I go over the machine or go through the overview, walk around, or the walkthrough, I'll show you that as well. All right, now we're going to talk about craftsmanship. This piece of equipment is probably Rogue's most impressive piece of equipment so far that I've used. I had their Monster Light Rack, which was a pleasure to have, and I had that for a couple of years. I also have the Rogue sled 2 point whatever. It was like a $900 sled with all the attachments, and that I thought that was done pretty well. But this is by far the best, most professional type of piece of equipment that they have. This could be in a major gym, in any gym in the world, based on the quality of it. The size of the bolts are 1 inch, also, which makes it harder to put together, and that's something that I'll probably talk about in the cons of it. They're 1 inch bolts, and it actually came with, and I can't find it right now, but it came with its own set of tools. And what I would probably tell you is that you would probably, if you can find a 1 inch ratchet set or a nut that you can put over it and ratchet down on it, it will cut the time down on putting this thing together by half the time. It took me roughly 4 hours because I kept making mistakes, and I'll get into that a little bit later in the cons. But the horns in the back are stainless steel, which is a great touch. They didn't use just regular steel and power coated. I think when you spend this kind of money for a machine like this, that is very important. I wish they would have used a different flooring, and I don't know the the 100% correct answer or what should have been put down on the flooring, but this to me was not it. It's kind of slippery. I'm trying to figure out a way now to where I can mark my feet to where I get a perfect position every time. And I don't know if I'm gonna put a piece of rubber over it or something of that nature. I probably will. I'll probably wind up cutting a piece of stall mat and put over it so that I can make sure that I get the best grip possible, because there are times where I feel my feet are sliding, and that's not good. So I wish they would have changed that. But you know, everything else about the machine is very adjustable. You can also add many different pieces to this machine due to the fact that it has the monster you know, poles set to it. So you could do rack pulls on this. You could do dips if you had the attachment, the bullhorn, things of that nature. I just think that is a very versatile piece of equipment, so that I could start doing curls, I could do upright rows, I could do push-ups, I could do running, I could do jumping, all of these little bitty things that that you wouldn't be able to do with a typical belt squat. Also, it actually comes with a belt. Now, I'm not a fan of this belt per se, due to one main issue is that it's made with like a vinyl. It's like a vinyl belt, and they melted down the edges, and the edges are kind of sharp, and they actually dig into my thigh and hip area a little bit, so it makes it uncomfortable, which is also one of the issues I have with squatting in the first place, is comfort. And I need to figure out a way to either put some rubber or something soft around there so where I'm not worried about it digging into my skin. I can just concentrate on the exercise. But that's an issue. And I think that's about it for that. All right, now my 10-day experiment. What my plan was that once I realized that it was basically a 1-to-1 ratio, I knew that I wasn't going to jump straight into like going, you know, 700 pounds. It was going to take time to work up due to the fact that I hadn't really squatted in over a month. So I knew I was going to need some time to work my way up. But what I did do is that I started adding a plate every day, or add 50 kilos or add 20 kilos throughout the week or the last 10 days that I've actually had the machine. And I just kept adding a plate. But what I found was that a yellow and a red was extremely hard. I was doing it without holding on to the rails, which I think for me is going to wind up being the way that I wind up using this to be the most beneficial to learning the correct motor patterns for my squat, is not holding on. Because what I found was that when I first started, I was leaning back a little bit too much, and it was just throwing me off. And what was happening is that my knees are really sore, so I was trying to work around the uncomfort that I had just from my body being banged up. So I'm going to just start all the way over again and work my way back up to the 710, 800 pounds. I got to 710 pounds in my last time using it. But when you're doing this, I think that every person who does it needs to have a game plan. You know, it's very quad heavy, and I'm very weak in the quads. I'm more of a, it actually showed me how much I rely on my back to squat, because, you know, lifting those lighter weights was really, really hard. And actually, Tony Harris, you know, the legend Tony Harris, you know, he has a gym at wherever he trains at, and they have the machine. And I'm thinking, you know, nobody's going to be lifting, you know, 400 pounds or 500 pounds. And he was like, I think at 550, 600 pounds with bands, you know, knocking them out easy. So I was like, I guess I have to add more weight, and I did. So I would say that make sure that you come up with something that's going to help you. You know, I'm actually doing things where I'm, you know, leaning back more, when I use the handles, that's going to, you know, help your hamstring, glute, lower back, and things of that nature. Then when you don't use the handles, you're going to be using most of your quads. Or instead of extending out as you hold the handles and perform a squat, keep your elbows like kind of tight, like almost at a 90 degree or something like that, and that will simulate more of a regular squat for yourself. But that, for application, I think is probably best. Just figure out how it's going to help you in your squatting or whatever the purpose you're using the machine. All right, message to Rogue. This machine, I think, would probably do much better if you guys put more information out about the equipment. As of right now, my review and garage gym reviews probably gonna be the